stories now. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the reappointment of Mr. Boss Mustafa as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the SGF, and Malam Abba Kyari as the Chief of Staff to the President. This was disclosed on Friday by the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu. Both appointments take effect from May 29, 2019. Mustafa and Kyari's reappointment is coming less than 24 hours after the Coalition of United Political Parties, the CUPP, initiated a suit seeking to stop President Buhari's aides from retaining their offices without formal announcements, reappointing them. Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Follow us right now on m.channelstv.com and on Facebook as well. We've got all our social media platforms covered. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation. Let's get your thoughts in. The Supreme Court, by a split decision, has dismissed the appeal filed by the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, in the 2018 Osun governorship election, Senator Ademola Adeleke, against the election of Adeboyega Oyetola of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. The Apex Court, in a majority judgment of 5-2, upheld the decision of the Court of Appeal, which nullified the judgment of the Osun State Governorship Elections Petition Tribunal on the ground that the tribunal was not properly constituted in regards to numbers. Now, what does this mean for the PDP and the people of Osun State? We'll focus on this later on the show. The federal government has suspended the planned Ruga program. The National Executive Committee, the NEC, on the farmers' herders crisis has confirmed the suspension of the program by the president. According to the committee, the suspension is owing to lack of consistency with the NEC and FG approved National Livestock Transformation Plan, which has programs of rehabilitation of displaced IDPs resulting from the crisis and development of ranching in any willing state. It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar in this State of the Nation. We begin from Taraba State, where the Governor Darius Ishaku on Wednesday signed into law the state's anti-kidnapping act, which provides capital punishment for offenders. In 2016, Nigeria executed 3 individuals who had been sentenced to death for armed robbery and by the military tribunal. The executions were carried out in Benin prison in Edo State. Nigeria had not previously carried out an execution since 2013, when it executed 4 prisoners for armed robbery who reportedly still had appeals pending. Likewise, the men executed in 2016 reportedly had appeals outstanding and may therefore have been executed in violation of Nigerian and international laws. Taraba State has experienced several high-profile kidnappings in recent times, a major challenge that has plagued states in the north. I'm thanking the lead, of course, out of all those states will be Kaduna as well as Katsina State. The president of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, Yerima Shatima, joins us via Skype on this. Also joining us from our Abuja studios is a member of the Taraba State House of Assembly, Honorable Bashir Muhammad. I want to thank you both for joining us on State of the Nation. Let's begin with you, Honorable. How important is it for Taraba State to pass the anti-kidnapping law that attracts this capital punishment, the death sentence?
Yes. In Taraba State, we felt kidnapping being a serious offense, we've made it to be a capital offense via a bill sponsored by the able Speaker of the Taraba State House of Assembly to make kidnapping a capital offense. Some sections of the law have been repealed, particularly sections 3, section 4, 7, 12, and 13. These are sections that have spelled out sentences for the offenses, ranging from kidnapping, abduction, and concealment of the crime, aiding and abetting the crime, harboring the criminals, and so on and so forth. So these sections have been repealed to make the offenses, some of them life imprisonments. Hitherto, they were just 20 years imprisonment, 10 years, as the case may be. But presently, it is some of them that were only 20 years imprisonment are now life imprisonment. The particular offense, that is the kidnapping itself, is now a capital offense. That is to say, it carries death penalty. Whoever is found guilty of the offense of kidnapping will be sentenced to death. And those who abet the crime at various levels. We have those who abet the crime before and after the offense. They also carry different penalties. So the section principally, they did not, or those sections have not in any way redefined what kidnapping is. What they do, or what they did, was just to redefine or reorder the sentences. In the former law, before it was repealed, is now law, because the governor has already assented to it 2 days ago. So now that it is a law, whoever is involved in kidnapping today in Taraba is an offender which carries a capital punishment, or the offense that has
if I may come in here again, so, this is what we know, that 15 states, as we speak, we are told, operate the death penalty capital punishment here in Nigeria. 7 executions have been carried out since 2007. By the end of 2018, however, there were more than 2,000 people on death row in Nigeria alone, including at least 46 people sentenced to death that year, 2018. Is the death penalty effective, in your thoughts, and serving its primary purpose, such that Taraba State government sees the need to go ahead and establish this law?
Yes, the law is one thing, and execution is another thing. Laws, penalties are meant to deter offenders from committing sundry offenses. But in this case, if one is convicted, the sentence is not final. It has to go through some other stages before execution, like the governor's approval or whatever it can be called. So what the principal function, or the major function of the State House of Assembly, is to make the law. Those who interpret it, those who execute it, are other arms of government. So in those 2 other arms of government, the judiciary interprets and convicts or sentences the offender. Then the executive does its function by way of executing the offenders. So our role stops at making the laws and advising, maybe where need be, how those things can be carried out. So to a large extent, executing all court judgments lies with the executive arm of government, which we cannot play their part. So our part, we've seen that in defining what the offense is and what the maximum sentence could be, in most of these offenses that we've said, we have said there will be no option for fine. So in those cases where maybe the offender was not found guilty of the major offense of kidnapping, that is death sentence, other minor offenses that follow the major offense might carry penalties that do not have options of fine. In these cases, they don't resort to the government or the executive. The judiciary, as soon as they pass the law, that becomes effective, and they will execute the decision handed down by the court. But in the case of penalty that carries death sentence, then the executive governor has to sign a warrant again to permit the execution of those offenders, which the legislature has no powers whatsoever to interfere in that. So our power ends at making the law.
Okay, and then you said, let me pick it at that point where you say that you want this, the law is aimed at serving as a deterrent. It's in record already that Mr. Hosea Ibi, a state lawmaker from Takum, was kidnapped and then was killed by his abductors. That was in January 2018, this very year that we're still talking about, even after a ransom was paid. What guarantees are there that the death penalty punishment for perpetrators of kidnappings in your state, Taraba, and indeed other states, will serve as a deterrent?
Yes, certainly death penalties are meant to deter offenders. But there are some stubborn offenders, whatever the penalty. Armed robbery has been there, people have been armed robbers, and death penalty has been the sentence for armed robbers or those convicted for armed robbery. But still, there are stubborn people who still go ahead and do it. We don't take chances. We want, if those abductors think people are taking them for granted, then they should know the penalty that awaits them when they commit such offenses, so that the society and the Nigerian society will look at it that it's not the law that is helping the offenders. It's just the offenders themselves choose to be stubborn and they want to perpetuate in their own crime. But whoever gets caught, certainly death penalty awaits him. So whether they can commit it or not, offenses are there, people commit offenses, and penalties await offenders. So that's all I can say about this. But I can't speak for those who commit the offenses. We do not know them. They commit those offenses maybe under the cover of darkness of the night and what have you. So we wouldn't know what actually is their purpose for doing all these things. They want to make the society unpeaceful and what have you. So death penalty awaits those who commit such offenses.
So we also know that there are no hard and fast rules about this. The law must be followed at all times, and just to keep the sanity of what we ought to be as a people. But you also know that Sharia law exists in the north already. Adultery, apostasy, homosexuality, under the Penal Code Federal Provision Act. Treason also carries the mandatory death penalty as well. Some argue that there are existing laws already that addresses crimes such as kidnapping, and there is really no sense in having what you have in Taraba State at the moment.
Yes, it's the law that has been in place that we repealed. We have the penal code, which was repealed to an extent. That is in 2010, June 2010. The penal code was repealed in Taraba as regards to abduction. Then we felt that the offenses do not carry the sentences they deserve. That is why it was repealed. As I earlier on said, those sentences that have been prescribed, they have substituted or they repeal earlier ones that have lighter punishments. In the repealed law, the offense of kidnapping itself carries only life imprisonment. So then we felt that this is not enough. We went further to repeal that law, make it a capital offense now. It's no longer life imprisonment. Offenses of abatement and others that help kidnappers have been given life imprisonment and what have you.
Okay,
so
let me put you on hold for a minute or two so that we can quickly, my apologies, just so that we can quickly go on a short break and then we'll come back and then you can finish on your line of thoughts. Join us again. Welcome back to State of the Nation. We're still dissecting the latest law from Taraba State, where the capital punishment has been put into law for kidnappers in the state. And we still have a member of the Taraba State House of Assembly, Honorable Bashir Mohammed from our Abuja studios. You were still making a point with regards to how this is all going to pan out as we look into that law and looking at the various sides of Sharia side. Please.
Yes. You made mention of Sharia law. Sharia law has been in existence in the northern part of the country. Some of them are even captured in the penal court, like the earlier ones you've mentioned, homosexuality and sundry offenses that are against Islamic teachings. So when we are talking of capital offenses, yes, there are capital offenses under the Sharia. Then we have capital offenses under the penal court. We have capital offenses in various states of the north that have defined what a capital offense is, or what an offense is. Then the sentence for that offense is a capital offense. So certainly, having looked at what the latest law in Taraba, I believe is the latest because it was just signed or assented to by the governor 2 days ago. So this is the law that prescribes death sentence for offenders or those who are found guilty of the offense of kidnapping and abduction. So as I earlier on said, this is to serve as deterrence to those who even have the mind of kidnapping. They should know what awaits them. So these are some of the major issues, and those who abet or those who harbor. For those who harbor the offenders, they are the risk of losing their property and all proceeds realized from the offense of harboring the kidnappers. So you get your property demolished, you have all proceeds, whether in bank or cash at hand, being seized and forfeited to the government for the offense of harboring kidnappers. And for those who conceal the offenders, that is to say those who conceal, they have information about kidnappers and they refuse to divulge such information to the appropriate quarters or to the appropriate security agencies, then they stand the risk of having life imprisonment. In some cases, they will have 20 years imprisonment without option of fine. So these are some of the new punishments prescribed for the offense of kidnapping and abduction in Taraba State.
How do you intend to gauge the performance of this new law?
The performance as in?
Of your new law, how do you intend to gauge the performance? By way of yes, the offenders and what the things that you've already outlined that they will face on a gradational level. But what's the strategy you plan to adopt in gauging the performance, yes, in general?
Okay. In part of our plans, even the law, after being signed, when the law is being assented to by His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Taraba State, the next line of action we plan to do is, one, we will call stakeholders, all stakeholders, from village chiefs, ward heads, graded chiefs, security agencies. Everybody will be invited to a stakeholders meeting. What we discover in our society today is that it's not about the law, it's ignorance of the law. We have some laws that have been assented to by the governor, but even at the Ministry of Justice, there are people that do not know the existence of those laws. So this law, being a serious one, and it carries a death sentence, we now want to make it known to everybody. As I earlier on said, all stakeholders. In security business, everybody is a stakeholder. We'll go and streamline and make sure those who can disseminate this information to the various quarters, to various environments, villages, towns and what have you, so that at the end of the day, this law, the message will be carried down to the grassroots. Everybody will be aware, including the kidnappers. You know, those who commit offense, most of them do not know even the gravity of the offenses they are committing. So that is, and we blame this on ignorance. So we will not allow this ignorance to perpetuate. With this anti-kidnapping law, we will now make it mandatory for all our laws that we make, particularly in Taraba State. We call stakeholders, enlighten them on the existence of this law or of the new law that has just been passed. Then we tell them the effects of this law and the implications of violating these laws. With this, we believe we will be able to sensitize the general public on the existence of our laws. Laws are just left to lawyers to know what an offense is and what the sentences are for those offenses. No, it's not done like that. We must make it known to the common man on the street. Everybody should know this is an offense, and if I commit this an offense, XYZ offense, then such and such penalties await me. Then they will now come back to their senses. Even the offenders, if they know the implication of what they are doing and the sentences those offenses carry, definitely they will think twice before committing any offense. Those people think kidnapping can just be like mere theft. Theft is also an offense per se, but I say it's mere theft because it does not carry death penalty. So they may think stealing an individual is the same thing like stealing a fowl. So we will make them understand this is not the same. And with this development, the laws will be made known to them, and they should know all offenders, without any exception, are liable to face death sentence if they commit kidnapping or abduction.
Let me digress a little from the major focus, because I know that Taraba State also has this anti-open grazing law that is in place with the latest development that is happening with the cattle settlement that we had. What's the position of Taraba State on that?
The position of the Taraba State government on the Ruga settlement.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
The Ruga settlement of a thing, though I'm not the spokesman of Taraba State government, I may not know the position the Taraba State government has on this. So maybe this question might not be my own question. It might be directed to the appropriate quarters. Maybe the spokesman of Taraba State government might be invited. This Ruga of a thing is a very controversial thing that I don't want to get caught in the web of this controversy. And I believe the right people to answer these questions are those in the executive who have policies to execute or policies to support. So the Ruga settlement of a thing, maybe the spokesman of Taraba State government may say better than I may. So because I am not part of the policy makers of the executive arm of government, I do not know anything what the Taraba State government intends to do about it.
I just wanted to get a little pulse, because that's your state, and as a lawmaker, you are also, if not first-hand, second-hand, getting information about the people and how they feel about that particular law. But we must thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Honorable Bashir Mohammed, a member of the Taraba State House of Assembly. Many thanks indeed for talking to us. And that's how the show has been today. Many thanks indeed for watching. I'm Gimba Umar. This is State of the Nation. Bye for now.